In this video, we're going to talk about what a research question is. And it's going to be the first one. We're going to spend a little while on this. We're going to spend about 4 lessons on this, on really talking about what a research question is. So first, on this video, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about what the definition is and kind of just introduce it, really, is what we're going to do. So let's talk about what the definition is. The research question is clear, focused, concise, and arguable, around which you're going to center your research. All right. It's the aim by which we hope to answer through our study, investigation, and our analysis. Okay, what it's going to do, it's going to be the process by stating the specific issue or problem that our research is going to hopefully address. Okay, so it's going to help just kind of really guide where our research is going to be, okay? It is going to be really good. Now, there are a couple rules that we're going to have to follow as we're going to try to guide our research, okay? This research question, we're going to guide these, and it's really going to be really kind of nice, all right? So here are a couple helps, if you will, that is going to help guide us through this process. Okay, the first of which here, number 1, it must be clear and it must be specific. We don't want it to be really vague, way too broad that we can't understand it at all, okay? Okay, so clear and specific is going to be the first one. I'm going to give you a couple examples here in just a second. All right, clear and specific. The next thing is, all right, it cannot be answerable with simply a yes or a no. Okay, did this event happen? Yes or no? Okay, then it's not really a good research question, okay? And it should not be easily found through Google. All right, if it's Googleable, then it's not a really good research question. It needs to be an open-ended question. Okay, so if it is not a yes or no, if it's open-ended, and if it's clear and specific, we're on the right path. And finally, and this is especially important when we go through some of these documents that are super, super old, it must be researchable. In other words, through our research, we have to be able to find the answer to this. If we can't find the answer to it, then it's really not a good research question, just because no matter how much research we do, we're not going to be able to find the answer. Okay, now let's look at a couple examples here, and hopefully that will kind of help to kind of clarify some things, okay? All right, so let's get in here. We're going to look at a couple topics. First topic we're going to look at is the American Revolution. Now let's look at a good research question, and then we're going to look at a bad research question about the same topic, and let's kind of compare the two, and hopefully that'll kind of shed some light for you. Okay, so a good research question on this topic is, how did the economic policies of the British Empire contribute to the start of the American Revolution? Okay, so this is an open-ended question. It's not yes or no. You can't quickly Google it and find out some answers. Okay, and it is arguable. If we did some research, one person might come up with a couple of factors, right? Economic policies. Another person might come up with a couple different factors that might be, and you could argue one side or the other, so that would work. Okay, so this would be a good one, right? Because there are several different economic policies. You got the Stamp Act, you got the Sugar Act, you got a couple different ones that could have contributed to it, so that would be a good one. A bad research question, let's look at this one. Did the American colonies dislike British policies? Okay, this isn't really a good one. Did the American colonies dislike British policies? Well, okay, that's not really great. It can be answered with simply yes or no. It doesn't explore specifics or the policies or their impacts, right? It's not really deep. Okay, so this isn't a good research question. All right, now let's look at another example here. The Great Depression. Let's look at this one. What were key economic and political factors that led to the Great Depression? Very open-ended, right? Key economic and political factors. This is very specific, right? We're looking at just economic and political factors. So very, very specific. Okay, so this is pretty good there. Now let's look at a bad research question. Was the Great Depression a sad time for people in the United States? Okay, this is very weak. This is a very, very weak question. We don't want to go with this one. It's vague, overly broad, subjective for sure, and lacking a specific focus. Yeah, not a good one at all. Okay, so on the next one here, I'm going to give you a couple other examples. We're going to pick a topic here. And on this next one, I'm going to give you a bad research question. And then we're going to see if maybe we can come up with a better research question on the next one. Okay, so let's look at this next one here, the Civil Rights Movement. The bad research question is, was the civil rights movement covered by the media? And see if you can identify why this is a bad research question, and maybe how can we make it a better research question? Okay, was the civil rights movement covered by the media? Well, we can definitely go online. We can Google this one and find the answer. And it's very simplistic. You can answer it with a yes or a no. Did the media cover it? Was there press coverage? Did they take photos? Did they report it on the news? Right? It's simply a yes or no question. This is not a good research question. A better way that we could ask or pose this question to make it a good research question, now we want to make it open-ended, right? It could be arguable, would be, what role did the media play in influencing public opinion during the civil rights movement of the 1960s? Right? This is specific. Not only are we talking about the media, but we're talking about the media influencing public opinion. This is much more specific, very clear. Okay, much more specific. So this is a much better one. Let's look at another example on the Louisiana Purchase. Okay, I'm going to give you the bad example first, and then we're going to see how we can maybe provide a better example here. Okay, the bad example here on this particular one is, did the U.S. buy land from France in the early 1800s? Okay, see if you can identify what's weak with this research question, and maybe see if we can identify how to make a better research question out of this one, okay? This one, we can definitely Google the answer. It's also a yes or a no, right? So both of those make it a very weak research question. We don't want to use those. So instead, there are a lot of different ways we could go with this, right? What were the impacts of the Louisiana Purchase on political policies, economics of it, right? On this particular one, how did the Louisiana Purchase impact future foreign policy in the United States? That is an excellent one, right? Because we're very specific on future foreign policy. It's very specific on this one. So that would be very clear, very specific, arguable, very much so. It's an open-ended question, which makes it a lot more powerful. So this is a very good research question here. Now, a hint as well is if we can start our research questions with one of these. Who, what, when, where, why, and how. One of these questions with a W, right? They all start with a W except for how. Of course, that ends with a W. So one of these research questions with a W, if we can use one of these, it's a great way to include these in our research questions. And so just to kind of summarize just a little bit here, key elements of a research question, again, they must be clear and specific. That makes it a strong one. It cannot be a yes or a no question. We don't want it to be Googleable. If we can easily find the answer by just Googling it, then it's not a strong research question. And it needs to be an open-ended question. It should be arguable, meaning after we conduct some research, one side could argue one way, and maybe someone else can come in with additional research and argue a different way, potentially. And then finally, it must be researchable, meaning that after we conduct a decent amount of research, we can find the answer, right? The answer is available through conducting research and finding primary sources and secondary sources. So hopefully this kind of helps a little bit as an introduction to research questions.